It's been 7 days since the US and Israel attacked Iran together. 7 days of around-the-clock bombing. Over 2,000 strikes. Entire military bases turned to rubble. Iran's supreme leader killed on day one. If you look at the numbers on paper, you would think this is almost over, that America is simply steamrolling Iran into submission. But something happened in the first 3 days of this war that the Pentagon isn't talking about. Something that changes the picture completely. And if you missed it, which most people did, because it didn't come with a dramatic explosion on live TV, you're missing the most important story of this entire conflict. Iran didn't try to win in the air. It didn't try to sink a US aircraft carrier or shoot down a fighter jet. Instead, it went after something that almost nobody was watching. The radar systems that allow America to see incoming missiles in the first place. Every missile defense battery the US has in the Middle East depends on a radar dish to function. The radar is what spots an incoming missile the moment it launches, tracks it across the sky, and tells the interceptor system which direction to fire. Without that radar, the interceptor is useless. You're essentially trying to shoot down a missile while blindfolded. Iran knew this, and from the very first hours of this war, it went straight for those eyes. In Jordan, a US missile defense radar worth $500 million was completely destroyed. Not damaged, gone. Satellite images taken on March 2nd showed nothing left but a blackened scar on the ground where it used to sit. In the UAE, Iranian missiles hit at least 2 separate missile defense sites, targeting the exact buildings designed to house radar equipment. In Kuwait, the protective domes covering radar arrays at a major US base were blown apart, and 6 American soldiers were killed in a drone strike on a nearby port. The US embassy in Kuwait shut down entirely, and then came Qatar, and this one is the one that really should make you stop and think. Qatar's government actually came out and publicly confirmed that a massive radar installation at one of their military sites had been destroyed. That radar had been built into hardened concrete, permanently installed back in 2013, and it cost $1.1 billion. Not a million, $1 billion. And it wasn't a system you can just pack up and move somewhere else. It was built into the ground. What it did was give US forces the earliest possible warning when Iranian missiles leave the ground, buying precious extra minutes for defenses to respond. With it gone, that warning window shrank dramatically. You go from having minutes to react to having seconds. The Pentagon said nothing. Their spokesperson told CNN only that they don't discuss specific military capabilities in the region. In military language, when they refuse to deny something, that usually means it happened. Now here is where it gets really interesting. Because if you look at what Iran hit and in what order, you start to realize this was not improvised. First, it took out the Qatar radar, the one that sees threats the earliest and from the furthest distance. Then it went after the radars in Jordan and the UAE that handle closer, more immediate tracking. Then it targeted the satellite communications equipment that lets all these different systems share information with each other. At the US Navy's main headquarters in Bahrain, Iran destroyed communications terminals on day one, deliberately cutting the base off from the outside world before anything else. It went in a specific sequence. Someone had clearly studied exactly how America's air defense network is built and worked out the most efficient way to dismantle it. By the time we reached day 7, the UAE alone had absorbed over 1,000 Iranian drones and close to 200 ballistic missiles. Every single one of those weapons is now flying into a region that can see less than it could a week ago. The defense systems that are still working are being stretched across wider areas, covering for the ones that aren't. The United States has only 8 of its most advanced missile defense batteries on the entire planet. Now, here is where the cost story gets genuinely uncomfortable. Although the radar Iran destroyed in Qatar cost $1.1 billion, the missile Iran used to hit it cost, at most, $20,000. You heard it right. Iran spends $20,000. The US loses $1.1 billion. That is a return on investment that no defense contractor in America can compete with. And Iran did not do this once. It did it across 5 countries in 72 hours, burning through what analysts estimate was a few $100 million in missiles total to destroy or damage nearly $2 billion in American infrastructure. The Pentagon's own cost estimate for the first 100 hours of this war on the U.S. side was $3.7 billion, $891 million per day, almost none of it budgeted for in advance. The Shahed drone that hit the 5th Fleet Communications Terminal in Bahrain costs between $20,000 and $50,000 to build. Iran is manufacturing these at a rate of hundreds per week. The dome it destroyed costs around $10 million to replace, and that's before you count the installation, the shipping, and the fact that you're trying to do all of this inside a base that is still absorbing incoming fire. The economics of this exchange are not working in America's favor, and they are not going to start working in America's favor because Iran has been building and stockpiling these weapons for years, specifically because the math is this good. Before this war started, in July 2025, Pentagon sources privately admitted that Patriot missile stockpiles across the Gulf had already fallen to 25% of what the military considers the minimum necessary level. That was before a single missile was fired in this conflict. Since February 28th, the UAE alone has intercepted 1,072 Iranian drones and 196 ballistic missiles. Qatar intercepted 66 ballistic missiles in a single wave on the first day. Every single interception costs between $1 and $4 million, depending on which interceptor is used. At that burn rate, some analysts are now saying Qatar's interceptor stocks could be functionally empty within days. When that happens, Iran does not need a sophisticated missile to cause damage. It can send a $20,000 drone, and there is nothing left to stop it. And Iran has done something else that almost nobody is reporting on. Chinese satellite imagery from early February, 3 weeks before the war started, had already mapped the exact GPS coordinates of US Patriot radar systems at Al Udeid. That imagery was commercially available. Anyone could buy it. Iran did not need a spy inside the base. It looked at the same satellite photos any analyst with a credit card could access, identified the radar trailers by their distinctive shape and the infrastructure around them, wrote down the coordinates, and programmed missiles. The entire intelligence operation that preceded a $1.1 billion radar being destroyed potentially started with a commercial satellite subscription. The US is not losing this war, but it is spending $891 million a day fighting it against an enemy that figured out years ago that the goal was never to match American firepower. It was to make American firepower as expensive as possible to use. We will keep covering this as it develops, so make sure you subscribe, because this is moving fast, and you do not want to be catching up.